Hello and welcome to our flight into Juneau, Alaska. We are going to begin by looking at the approach chart, and we will be approaching this VOR, which is, and for our purposes, SSR, and we will be approaching from the south. When the video begins, we will be about 20 miles south of that VOR. At that point, we will begin our approach, which will result in a right turn to a waypoint Nimley, and then a left turn to a waypoint Ogimi, and then straight to the runway, more or less. However, if you look here, you can see the runway is actually at 85 degrees and our approach is at 70 degrees. That's because there's a hill right in front of this runway, and you have to kind of scoot around that and then make a little right turn to land on the runway. That is our plan. As we approach SSR, Nimley, and Ogimi, we will be at 3,400 feet. There's a drop to 2,700 feet at Mine, which we can look at down below here. You can see that's a little steep descent to get down to 2,700, and then a more gradual 3-degree descent to the airport. The decision height here is somewhat high because of all the mountains around. It is 1,880 feet. Also of note is this is the if you abort the landing, the go-around procedure, if you will, is to turn left and to go up here a ways to a waypoint called Chill, and you hit that at about 9,000 feet, if I remember correctly. So our hope is we won't have to do that, and we will just make this approach as specified by the chart here. Okay, with that, let's go to our aircraft and join the flight, as I said, about 20 miles south of SSR. And welcome to the inaugural video of Toby Air. We are approaching the woods waypoint, which is about 30 miles from the SSR VR, which is our the transition into our approach. I'm going to, oops, excuse me. I'm going to just increase our, so we can see what we're doing here. The thing I'm interested in right now is we are descending as we approach SSR. We are 540 feet right now above the glide path. Hopefully in the 20 miles we have to go here, we will be able to make that up. If not, we may have to intervene, but right now we are flying on VNAV and LNAV. I have the altitude set for 3,400, as you can see. And the other item of interest right now will be here. Looking at the legs, you see that we are hoping to be at 6,500 feet and 240 knots when we reach SSR, which is 22 miles from us right now. nav data out of date is interesting. You get that even though I know the nav data is up to date, but that's okay. So that is our situation. And I just want to put put this guy back in the box, which I don't seem to be able to do. Well, that's right. You have to close this over here. It's funny how that works. Okay, going back up to our view at the windscreen. You can see that the altitude is above 3,400 at Nimley, and it is also above 3,400 at Ogimi, which is where we make our turn onto the approach. Just by way of a little background, I am not an actual pilot. I am just a sim pilot, and I try to do things according to Hoyle, but I probably missed some things, and some of my procedures are not entirely correct. My apologies for that, but this is how we learn. There are a lot of other YouTube videos out there done that are done by people much more skilled than I, but I thought this might be fun to do, and this approach is kind of fun. It offers a few little challenges, so we'll see how it goes. Right now we are still 500 feet above the glide path, but that's okay. We are reaching 10,000 feet, and here's one thing I always forget to do, is to just turn on the landing lights at 10,000 feet, which I will. It's funny when you're doing something that you hope others would see, you maybe pay a little bit more attention to doing things the proper way. Also, this heading bug should be changed to 302, which is our heading. Our speed is good. It's 240. Our descent rate is okay. It would be nice if we were descending a little more rapidly. We're still 500 feet over where we want to be at SSR. Now what I'm going to do is intervene here for just a second, because I'd rather intervene early than late, and just take us down a little faster. Maybe we'll build up a little speed, but we'll have time to get that back, to slow down again. And this will get us on the descent path more rapidly. I'm not too concerned about the speed now, as I think I'll have time. As we begin to get to here, I'm going to go back onto VNAV and let that take over. And it's also telling me on the FMC that some drag is necessary, so I'm going to invoke the speed brakes for a little while. One of the things that I have not been able to figure out yet is when you get the message drag required on your FMC is when do you, if you will, remove the drag. Now the message does eventually end. I don't know if that's when it's done, or I do know if the engines start to spool up, you want to take the drag off, because you're not supposed to be using the spoilers if you're introducing thrust. That's sort of two things working against one another. And since we're at 240, I'm going to remove the drag, or remove the speed brakes. And I'm going to make another change here to the range on my other MFD, which I actually have on the other screen, so I can kind of look at that, see what's happening. So the co-pilot's PFD is right here, and the co-pilot's MFD is off on my other screen. Further message to introduce drag, so we will. Engines are at 32%, so we're not introducing any thrust. We are right on the descent path, and frankly, at the next waypoint, namely, we're supposed to be above 3,400 feet, which we will be. So we're not. We're on the descent path. We're good. Our speed is good, so I'm going to once again remove this drag. And our next waypoint is 7 miles off, and that is where we will make our turn onto the final approach. Once again, at that waypoint, we're to be above 3,400 feet. We seem to be doing well with that regard. By the way, I'm using FSX, Active Sky for P3D version 4 weather. This is P3D version 4. This is a Boeing 737NGX. Ultimate live traffic, which I might turn off here because they have a habit of putting airplanes on the runway when you're landing. I'm not using any controlling software at the moment for this exercise. Oh, there's an ultimate traffic plane over there. We'll try not to hit it. We are still on the glide path, as I would hope, and we are approaching 3,400 feet. This would be a good time to set the minimums, which is 1880, and I'm going to do that right now. A little hard to read, it's at 1885. I believe that's correct. I have another way of looking at that to be sure. 1890. Making our turn to there you go. The minimum is barometric at the moment, and it's at 1880. Now, as we do this, I'm going to, the next waypoint, our altitude is to be 2,700. I'm going to actually go below that because I know I won't get below it. I'm going to go down to a point below where I will take over on the autopilot, which I will do roughly several seconds after we hit minimums, or at 1,000 feet is usually when I remove the autopilot. One final look here at this as we're going along. This ring here is a 10-mile ring, and this other ring is a 4-mile ring. At the 10-mile ring is when I check for my landing configuration, and I turn on the auto brakes. I also will engage the speed brake, the auto speed brake, and I know the landing lights are on, passenger signs are on. I don't have checklists enabled right now, so I'm not strictly following a checklist, which I should. Please forgive me. Also, I'm going to begin introducing some flaps at this point. At around the 5-mile mark is when I'll lower the gear, introduce the final round of flaps. But for now, we will go to, well, flaps 10 was good. Okay. And here we are. Well, we can see the runway right ahead, if not straight ahead. We are still on the glide path, which is a good sign. And we are slowing down. Our ref speed is 144. And we are a little bit fast, but the speed's coming down.
Approaching minimums.
You might have heard we're approaching the minimums. And I believe we have hit minimum, so if I understand correctly, the procedure is we will be landing. Okay, I'm getting ready to lower the landing gear. I'm going to introduce some more flaps. And I'm going to remove the autopilot. Here we go. And the auto throttle. And here we go. We're a little high according to the poppy lights. I'm going to back off the throttles a bit. Speed is dropping. We're a little high. I think we'll be alright here in a second. I'm going to shallow out the descent. Now we are right on it. Speed is coming down nicely. Here we go.
100. 50. 30. 20. 10.
That is our landing. There is another plane coming at us. Hopefully he will get off the runway before we get there. I think I can get rid of him actually by doing this. There we go. Now, one thing I like to do as a final step, I'm going to pause this. I like to go back and give you another view of the landing, which is from the tower's perspective. Here we go, and we go back to instant replay. And I just usually go back just 60 seconds is sufficient. Here we go. Let's see how this looks. And here we come. The tower is looking at us and saying, oh, well, that guy looks pretty good, I think. Let's see how he does. There you have it. What I do wonder about, I'm not sure if my pitch is too high on these landings, so any comments anyone would like to make, I would greatly appreciate them. I have a lot to learn, I am sure. Well, I hope that was at the very least entertaining, and perhaps even informative for some of you. Thanks for watching. Over and out.